Hello, and welcome back to the Summoner's Guide to Final Fantasy XIV. This time we are playing the optional dungeon, though, as always I say, there really isn't any optional dungeons, you should play them all. But this is a non-story dungeon of patch 4.4, St. Mocianne's Arboretum Hard Mode. This is a dungeon I've run far more recently, mainly as Red Mage on my main. But the good news is, I know this one. I've played this one a lot more recently than some of the 4.2 and 4.3 stuff that I was semi-struggling through in earlier videos in this series. All right, so typically we're going to see everything pulled basically up to the barrier. This is going to be close quarters fighting, so you're going to have to do some very interesting dodging. Now this is actually, as of the time of this recording, still relevant content, as it does show up in the expert roulette for players who are still trying to earn tomestones for gear. Okay, that was a mistake on my part. You should be looking away when frontal is a thing. Otherwise, that happens. Fortunately, it didn't pull me into the AoE, but it certainly is a possibility. When the first set of ads are down, the barrier will come down, and those two enemies will engage pretty much right away. The tank, however, will usually pull everything over to the barrier, which is that dead marble up there. So you didn't really want to fight another marble, did you? Oh, I certainly don't. Okay, so this time I'm going to pay attention and not get hit by frontal. Takes us to the first boss. Alright, so for this boss, you can do yourself a huge favor by paying close attention to what the boss is doing. And especially where the non-targetable ads show up. Alright, so when you get that message about the roots and vines, keep an eye out for where that little plant, I think it's actually an Ocho, shows up. Oh yeah, there's a stack up, and there's a puddle drop too. That's a thing. So try to feint that over to somewhere where it's not going to get in people's way, and try to stay a little closer to the tank during that phase. I'd forgotten about that. But when you're getting ready to devour, you need to get right up where that little plant, that Ocho, the non-targetable ad, shows up. Because that's where he's going to jump, and almost all the rest of the arena is going to be in an AoE. So that's where the next jump point is going to be. Alright, so get away from everything. Alright, he's gonna devour, so get over to him. And stay out of that blue mist until he's done spitting it out. Now, there's going to be a third ad that shows up. You probably won't have to deal with that. Okay, I've been targeted, so I'm going to get that out of the way. Oh, I may have to worry about that. Alright, so he's down now. So yeah, that's really what you got to worry about. Watch out for the stack mechanic, which I completely screwed up on. Try to bait the puddles so that they're out of the way, and whenever you see the non-targetable ad, that's where the Devourer is going to go. That's where you need to be when he finishes that attack. So for this next section of ads, the ones you really want to worry about are the Bolokos, because of that particular AoE that you see right there. Anything in that AoE, friend or foe, is going to be transformed, and you want your enemies to be transformed, but you don't want to be transformed into, I forget, like corpicers, I think is what they're called. But yeah, you don't want to be there, because it's bad. It pretty much takes you out of commission for a fairly large chunk of time. So, always make sure you stay out of that particular AoE, which can be a challenge because, as before, we are fighting in close quarters. So what I like to do is, obviously I'm using AoEs, but I'm focusing the brunt of my attacks on the Boloko, because I don't like that roly-poly move. And once Boloko is down, the corpicers are not as big of a deal, or the other enemies are not as big of a deal, especially if they've all been turned into corpicers. Alright, so second section is going to be much like the first. There is going to be another Boloko. So you do want to focus him down first. Oh, there we go, the Boloko. There, that's what I want. Now, unfortunately, the Boloko is the strongest enemy in the group, particularly having the most HP. So, even though he's going to be the one you want to kill first, he probably isn't going to be the one you kill first. He may be the one you kill last. And that brings us to the second boss. Now, the second boss has some tricky little mechanics in it, and you're going to have to watch the arena. The arena is the most important part about this particular fight. Basically, the arena is going to have basically marks that will convey you to one side or the other, and then there are going to be golems to the sides of the arena that are going to be casting AoEs. The idea is you want to be out of the AoE when the conveyor finishes. Now it's going to move you basically like that. Basically, if you consider the arena to be a 4x4 grid, it's going to move you 2 spaces in the direction of the arrows. So you want to time it so that 2 spaces away is where a golem will not be. Later on, it'll get more tricky as the golems are actually going to be coming from multiple directions. Your goal again is to end up in a space. Oh, look away. Is to end up in a space where there will not be an AOE. All right. So yeah, here. So 2 spaces from there is going to get me right to the edge. And now you don't want to get pushed too far, or else you'll go right off the edge and into a. Oh, bait the earth shakers away from each other. Yeah, you don't want to get too far because you'll get hurt if you get knocked to the edge of the arena. The tricky part is when they're coming from 2 different sides of the arena, which fortunately they did not in that case. The first time you see the golems, there's only going to be 2. The second and any consecutive time after that, you'll see 3 golems. And they may be all on the same side, or they may be on 2 different sides. Alright, so I want to be here. Oh, never mind, there's 4 this time. So it does increase. Oh shoot, I mistimed that. And I didn't use my second Bahamut attack either. Alright, so that was a screw up on my part, but as you can see, I still survived. Alright, so that's the second boss. And again, it can be tricky to determine where a safe place to be the more golems you get. If you're running in a party with high DPS, you may not get to a 3rd golem phase. Again, I'm not really terribly well geared at this point. I'm improving my gear. Alright, so this 3rd section is actually, I think, the easiest ad section of the bunch. I should be rolling on stuff. Alright, so that gate will keep us from going to the 2nd section so far, but, as I said, this is actually the easiest ad section in the dungeon. Now, for this second set of ads, there's an interesting mechanic that you can do. So what the tank is going to do if they know this dungeon, they're going to pull everything to a very specific point in this room next to the water conduit. Somebody, tank or otherwise, needs to activate the water conduit, which will actually clean off all of the enemies that show up in the area. And it's actually going to debuff them, so... it does make this section considerably easier. So once you've dealt with that, and again, like I said, that second pull is considerably easier if you wash them off. All that's left now is the end boss, and this is a little trickier end boss if you don't know what you're doing, so we're going to explain to you what you need to do here. The key to this boss is knowing where to be and when. So, most of this arena is a grate, which drops into the lower section of the arena. There are also these solid platforms, which are solid floors. There are times when you want to be on the grate, there are times you want to be on the floor. When the puddles begin to froth, stand on a platform, because it will affect anybody who is standing on the grate. When you get a marker like that, stand on the grate, because it will drop mud, and if it lands on a platform, the platform will get covered in mud. You don't want that. So you see the bubbling of the arena down there. Get on the platform. You get your marker. Get off the platform. The mud pie. The mud slime you want to always have on a platform. If the mud slime gets hit with If the mud slime gets hit by an attack, it will be knocked away in one direction. If it gets hit by the mud, it will grow. And if it grows big enough, it will explode and cause serious problems. Eventually, it will explode, and if it hasn't grown at all, it won't do anything to you. The more it grows, the stronger its explosion is going to be, and you just simply don't want it to happen. When those corpicers come in, just deal with them as need be. Okay, good. Healer dealt with that. Oh yeah, you definitely don't want the slime to get hit by that either. Alright, that might be a problem. See, it did manage to grow and explode, but it didn't grow large enough. Okay. I just got hit by a lot of attacks there. Yeah, the explosion combined with the attack from that did not do me well. Alright, get on the platform. Alright, Mud Pie here is not gonna be a concern here. We've almost got it. Alright, so that's that boss. Dealing with the mud slime is really the key, and most of the time you'll see the healer deal with it, but if nobody else is dealing with it, you just need to make sure you're knocking it onto a platform, and that you don't have it in the way of that big cone AoE. Other than that, it's a fairly simple dungeon, but it does have some interesting mechanics to deal with. Alright, so that is that. I tried to record the burn earlier and apparently didn't record, so we will be re-recording that later, as well as the 4.4 trial. And until then, have a wonderful day.